You are telling a narrative that I find quite scary. There's violence and violent behavior that sort of spawns itself from the internet, spawns itself from social media, a mixture of conspiracy theory, a mixture of us versus them, tribalism, and it can spill out. It can spill out into a crazy person taking a gun and having a mass shooting. It can spill out into some levels of domestic violence. It can spill out from cyberbullying to physical bullying. This stuff is unchecked on these websites. It's sort of the Wild West. No one blows a whistle and says, hey, what you're doing is not appropriate on our site. It's a private site. Get off our site.
Hate speech is protected speech, but just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean a private company has to support you saying it. I don't know if there's the will to create laws that would encourage tech companies to take more responsibility for what's on their websites.
Joining us now on Open Book is Elle Reeve. She's an award-winning journalist and, of course, a CNN correspondent. She's written an amazing book. The book is called Black Pill: How I Witnessed the Darkest Corners of the Internet Come to Life, Poison Society, and Capture American Politics. And so I've had briefings on this, okay? I've had agency briefings on this, okay? And this is a very... I mean, first of all, you wrote an amazing book, but it is a cautionary book. This is like the Surgeon General telling you that cigarettes cause lung cancer and could give you a heart attack and end your life, right? So social media sounded really fun 15 years ago, right, but it's causing a lot of problems in our society. Am I wrong?
No, that's absolutely right. It's scary. I just had a kid myself. He's not walking yet, but I'm already fantasizing about denying him a cell phone.
Right. Denying him a cell phone. Of course, he'll be very upset about that because his friends will have the cell phone and they'll be putting pressure on you left and right. And you think you can withstand this sort of pressure.
Yeah, no, I've already gamed it out in my head.
So I have the over on the kid. What's your son's name? Oh, you don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me. All right, but okay, your son, I have the over on your son. Okay, he's going to win out. I can tell right away you're a pushover mom, and you're going to give him exactly what he wants. Okay, so that's my over. We have this now time capsuled, okay, and we'll have to revisit this thing in 10 or so years when he's got the iPhone 29, and you and I are in the poorhouse because the iPhone 29 costs like $20,000 at that moment.
Right. Well, I've gamed it out. He can throw me under the bus and say, oh, yeah, my mom's crazy. She interviewed all these incels, you know. He can blame me.
All right.
No problem.
Well, but it's a big problem, okay, because it hurts the kid's self-esteem. There's cyberbullying. There's comparative analysis. We compare ourselves to these filtered people when we ourselves are unfiltered, forgetting that the people that are filtering themselves are also unfiltered. And then we have the problem of the adversaries to America that invent things on the net, and they have fictionalized characters that go off and go after us in an effort to try to besmirch the society. What did I miss so far from your book? Black could have been called The Black Bitter Pill, but what did I miss so far?
I'd say just the main thing is that it's no longer locked on the internet anymore. It's all spilled out into the real world. The internet is now warping our real reality.
Lots of conspiracy theories, right? Mm-hmm. Can't go on one of these sites without someone telling you that this family runs the world and the weather's controlled by that person and this person, gave you the vaccine to harm you and all this sort of stuff. Am I right?
Right. And they're willing to go in large groups across the country to take action to further those ideas or conspiracy theories.
Why does that work, in your opinion?
I think that when you're in I think that the internet creates this illusion of friendship that's really dangerous. And people get in these chat rooms, Discord servers, whatever, where they feel like they're finally talking to people who really get them. People who they don't know their name, they've never seen their face, and they are not interacting in public, in person, in a way where you can get these like subtle social cues that the person you're talking to might not be sincere. I saw this not just in extremism, with crypto. I interviewed a lot of people who talked about how crypto had become a cult, that it feels so good to enter these chat rooms and people tell you good morning and that you're doing the right thing and you're making a difference in society. And over time, this becomes your whole life, your internet social life. And I mean, you see posts of older people talking about how their family won't talk to them anymore. These were really big during QAnon. They're like, but that's okay because you guys, the other QAnoners, you're my family now.
All right, so some weird stuff, Ellie. You got gravitated towards this research for what reason? Tell us a little bit about your background and what got you focused in on the far right.
Well, I'd always been fascinated by the way masculinity became this like implicit part of presidential campaigns, like which candidate was the bigger tough guy. And then I saw this political cartoon online that portrayed Trump as this macho prince dancing with a like sexy America. And it just made it so explicit. So I look up this guy and it looks like he's a Nazi. And there's photos of him like in a SS uniform. There's cartoons supposedly by him that are grotesquely anti-Semitic. But then further research shows that that was part of a coordinated character assassination campaign against this guy by all these kids on 4chan. And that got me into researching 4chan, which is a place that it was kind of the engine of internet humor before it took such a dark turn. But it had become this place where kids and young people who thought of themselves as nerds, losers, loners. There was this term NEET, as in not in employment, education, or training, where they all collected and they had become white nationalists. They called themselves fascists. And it was huge. There were so many people there and I just I couldn't let it go.
So I mean, you write beautifully and you are telling a narrative that I find quite scary. And so you're basically suggesting, and see if I have this wrong, is that there's violence and violent behavior that sort of spawns itself from the internet, spawns itself from social media, a mixture of conspiracy theory, a mixture of us versus them, tribalism, and it can spill out. It can spill out into a crazy person taking a gun and having a mass shooting. It can spill out into some levels of domestic violence. It can spill out from cyberbullying to physical bullying. And this stuff is unchecked on these websites, right? I mean, it's sort of the Wild West, right? So I can go create an avatar, put a freaky deek meme up there and just start writing and seeing if I can attract attention and then mobilizing various levels of hatred if that's what I decide to do, right? No one comes in, no one blows a whistle and says, hey, what you're doing is not appropriate on our site. It's a private site. Get off our site.
I mean, there is more moderation than there was 10 years ago, but I mean, it used to be mainstream elite opinion that the internet should be total free speech, no moderation. So,
right.
I guess it was about 2008. The New York Times wrote this op-ed scolding Joe Lieberman for asking YouTube to take down the video channel from Al-Qaeda. Right? Like if it didn't have violence, the New York Times said this should be okay to leave up. Now, since then, we've realized that social media plays this huge role in encouraging people to do violence and that the free speech, this free marketplace of ideas, it doesn't work the way that we want it to. The best ideas don't rise to the top. What rises to the top or becomes the most prominent is those vile, hateful, angriest stuff.
Okay, so the state sponsorship, though. Talk about the state sponsorship for a second.
Yeah, one of the things when I look at Twitter, sometimes I'll see somebody dunking on a random person. Like, I can't believe someone could believe something so stupid. And I just want to shake people and say, like, the person that you're making fun of probably isn't who you think they are. Maybe it's just a teenager pretending to be a feminist or a Black activist. Maybe it's a Russian bot. Or not even a bot, but like there is concerted efforts by foreign governments to shape
Yeah.
our culture through, especially through Twitter. I mean, one of the people that I write about, it was Joshua Ryan Goldberg. He was a troll. He had been homeschooled since he was in 5th grade. He had a lot of mental health problems, but he could communicate online and became very interested in the way people fought on the internet. So he created some 2-3 dozen personas, and they would all fight each other: a white supremacist, a black conservative, a transgender feminist, and they were all fighting each other. But the one that got him in trouble was an Australian jihadist, and in that persona he had offered instructions on how to build a bomb.
Right.
And that's
There
what
you go.
got the feds to arrest him.
Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing story. I mean, the book could be, are you going to turn this into a docu-series or a mini-series? Are you thinking about that?
I mean, I would love to. There's so many different stories in there. It's like,
Right.
yeah.
The reason I wanted to bring you on is that what you're saying is alarming, but what you're saying is also very true. Let's say I landed here from Mars, and I took out, I came out of the flying saucer, and after we had a little conversation about take me to your leader, and since there are no leaders, can't take me anywhere, I then say to you, who is this guy, Andrew Tate? How would you describe this man, Andrew Tate, to an extraterrestrial?
I would say Andrew Tate is a toxic self-help guru for young men who feel inadequate and who feel weak and who want to feel strong. A lot of the anti-feminist content that's out there is built around this idea that men feel weak like women, and so they're angry at women for making them weak. It's this little circle. So I'd say that would be at the heart of it, and everything else he says just comes out of that same spot.
But dangerous, right?
Yes, certainly
Yeah.
the Romanian government thinks so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people think so. What is the difference between 4chan and 8chan?
4chan was created by a teenager in, I think, 2004, based on a Japanese website. It was called the dark heart of the internet. I mean, just the format of the meme itself basically was innovated on 4chan. Lolcats, like that icon has cheeseburger, this sort of cute internet. 4chan was the originator of a lot of that stuff. It's anonymous, and for a while, posts were wiped every few days. So that meant that, like, if you wanted to be in the know and like know what all the inside jokes were, you had to go on it every day. It rewarded more and more intense activity. 8chan was created by someone I interviewed, Frederick Brennan. His idea was something with even less restrictions and less moderation than 4chan. And so anything that was legal to be said in America could be said on this website.
Yeah, it's like a souped up 4chan.
That's right. It was a souped up 4chan. And so QAnon got kicked off of 4chan, but it found a home on 8chan, and that was where that culture really grew and spread.
And who do we think QAnon is?
Well, Fred argues. So Fred eventually realized he'd created a monster and worked quite hard to get it taken down. He sold the website to a man named Jim Watkins, who lived in the Philippines. Fred's theory is that Watkins and his son Ron control the voice of Q, that they sort of took it over in a coup several years ago. I find that convincing, and the New York Times also did a linguistic analysis that found that to be the case as well several years ago.
If you had to brief the president, as I'm going to put you in the White House, and you're going to say to them, what are the dangers and what are the risks? And here are some policy suggestions that you should consider at a federal level.
Well, I think that the government has created some consequences for websites in terms of sex trafficking. If you can do it for sex trafficking, maybe there's other stuff we could do it for too. Hate speech is protected speech, but just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean a private company has to support you saying it. I don't I don't know if there's the will to create laws that would encourage tech companies to take more responsibility for what's on their websites. I certainly would want to put pressure on them to do so. But one of the more disturbing things is that you can see among these Silicon Valley oligarchs, like the pull of this same culture that I'm describing. I mean, they sort of quote from it. There's an idea floating around out there about the neo-reactionary movement, which is that America needs a dictator like Caesar to take power and force change. There's an idea that society is being run by low IQ people, and that the high IQ people that you might find in the tech sector are the ones who really should be in charge. Those are the elements that I find most disturbing.
Okay. It's incredibly brave writing on your part. You're writing about the risks of being a journalist in this environment. Tell us about those risks. Tell us about the activism, the harassment. Tell us about the things that you have to experience.
Yeah, so the alt-right was this part of the white nationalist movement that was like new and young and focused on the internet, and they liked lying to journalists. Targeting journalists was part of their activism. They harassed journalists. I mean, I was sent a picture someone drew of me naked with a gun to my head. That was probably the creepiest thing I got.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Sucks. People are weird.
I read a study several years ago that a lot of online trolls have high cognitive empathy, meaning they understand why people feel what they feel, but low affective empathy. So they don't feel what other people are feeling. They see someone stub their toe, they don't cringe in response. And so they are able to manipulate people's emotions without feeling bad about it.
Right.
I mean, in short, I interviewed a lot of sick puppies. The most danger I ever felt, though, was in a big mob. You know, like I have had men circle up around me, and that is very scary. You know, when you can't turn your back to someone because you don't know what they'll do. Someone on January 6th threw a glass bottle when my back was turned, and it crashed at my feet. In the moment, I was outraged because I was like, "You coward! Like, you can't even do it to my face," you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, these people are nuts. I mean, you know, so I'm not surprised by any of that. Out of everything you investigated and uncovered in this book, what's the most shocking thing?
The most shocking thing for me was I got this old cell phone of a woman who'd been involved in the white nationalist movement and then quit. And I just was able to go through it the way you really can't go through it, anyone else's phone. I saw like all of her messages with all the different people, the way she presented herself to different people. And the strangest part was the other women who were in the white nationalist movement. The alt-right was a lot more misogynist than old school neo-Nazis. I mean, they were influenced by incel culture. And so there was like very grotesque hatred of women. And so publicly, these women would talk about how it was just a joke. They don't really mean it. They just want a traditional wife. But behind the scenes, they'd be messaging each other saying, you know, I do not trust these men. This man is dangerous. I'm afraid of him. I cannot continue making propaganda drawing women into this movement because it hates them. And one woman in particular, her boyfriend was into this joke called white Sharia, just the idea that the only way to bring women back under control would be to implement Sharia law, or their idea of it, on them. So no voting, no jobs, no divorce, whatever. And
there are guys that are part of this Project 2025 for the right wing that say that they want to get rid of the 19th Amendment, which is the woman's right to vote. I mean, you've heard that, right?
Yes, and no fault divorce.
Right, and then when they get called out on it, they say, "Oh, we were just joking." You know, that's the Trump move. Oh,
yes,
we were just
they've
joking.
completely taken the playbook from these people, and I'm just staring at it like, do you want to maybe it's almost denial. You want to believe the best in people, that they wouldn't be intentionally taking a page from the most vile white nationalist, but
Yeah. Yeah, well, I
clearly
mean,
people understand the power of it.
yeah, that's exactly right. So why'd you call it the black pill?
Because so most people are familiar with the red pill metaphor taken from the Matrix. The blue pill, you go back to the illusion created by the machines. The red pill, you see the gross, disgusting machine world for what it is. The idea there is that taking the red pill is stripping you of your liberal illusions, and that actually
Yep.
inequality is good. But the black pill is like a vibe. It's a mood, and it goes deeper than any of the ideologies of the people that I've interviewed. It's this feeling that society is going to collapse, and so you can do whatever you want. And I feel like people need, for these violent events to take place, people have to convince themselves that what they're doing is acceptable, and this is the way they do it. We tear down this society so we bring about the golden age. When I was at January 6th, a man was beating his chest saying to me, like, we're doing what we have to do. Like, only we can save us. Like, no one else is going to save us. This is 1776.
Well, that was my 50s. I'm born on January 6th. See that? I got, yeah. So I was having a normal birthday for the first 57 years of my life. And then after January 6th happened in 2021, it's now part of this white nationalistic extremism, and there is a movement inside that party to reform and revolutionize the government and switch the nation's birthday to that birthday away from July 4th. That's how crazy these people are. So, all right, well, you've written this.
Can I ask you, though?
No, please.
What was it like when you were in the government, like in 2017, and these guys were really starting? Did you guys talk about it?
So, no, I mean, listen, this has been well documented. When I got to the government and got to see the full frontal malevolence of Steve Bannon, I made sure there was a whole group of people that saw exactly what he was doing. And then in order to get him fired, I undermined him with Donald Trump. I went to Trump and said, you see these 10 reporters, these are ciphers for Steve Bannon. And he's trying to create a narrative that you're his hand puppet. And he's the great puppet master. And, of course, that irked Trump. And General Kelly fired this inhumane human being on the same day that I got fired. And so, I saw it. I was up against it. People think I got fired because of the conversation I had with a reporter. It's not why I got fired. I got fired because I was fighting with the president about a series of issues related to what you've experienced in the book that you're writing. And it is something that I think we have to explain to people. And Elon Musk says it better than anybody. Whatever the most absurd thing that you can think of to possibly happen, that's what's going to happen, right? And that's where we are, So you could have this wild lunatic back in the White House, and this nonsense that you're writing about is going to intensify. But I tried to stop some of it. I got Bannon fired. And of course, that was, he was such a big baby, though, by the way. Ellie, he didn't leave on the same day as me. We both got fired on the same day. He begged Kelly to stay 14 more days. So,
wow.
but he's spending 120 more days in prison than I am. Okay, thank God. All right, so at the end of my podcast, I come up with 5 words from the book. I ask the author to please have a word association game with me.
Okay.
And so, ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to say the word extremism. You think of what?
I think of my sources. I think of my cell phone.
All right. I say far right. The far right.
I think of Nick Fuentes trying desperately to get into the Turning Point USA conference.
Okay. How about the far left?
I think of people I interviewed in Portland, anti-fascists who, they were convinced that we needed violent revolution too.
Yeah, that's something I don't agree with either, but yes, I see that. What about 2024? And I mean that in the election, 2024.
I think it's scary.
Scary, right?
I think it's scary.
Yeah. Well, I see you're close enough to it. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because you see, if you see it in the field, you're like an infantryman in the middle of a battle, infantry woman. You can see actually what's going on. And of course, the closer you get to the thing, the more frightening it is. If I say the word black pill to you, what do you think?
I think of angry people that I've seen at Trump rallies. It used to just be angry people I saw at, like,
incitement. When I hear the word now after reading the book, I think incitement. So
yeah, I think.
Well, you're incredible. I hope you'll come back on as we go through the election odyssey. But the title of the book is Black Pill: How I Witnessed the Darkest Corners of the Internet Come to Life, Poison Society, and Capture American Politics. It's a brilliant book. You've got a great writing style. It's very easy to read, and I learned a lot. And I want to thank you for joining us today on Open Book.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It was cool.